introduce our speaker for the day. He is Dr. Oleg Feygenson, who holds a PhD degree in plasma technology and is also an MS, also has an MS degree in electrotechnology from St. Petersburg State Polytechnic University. Dr. Feygenson is a certified TRIZ master by the International TRIZ Association, that is MATRIZ. Dr. Feygenson was elected as the president of the International TRIZ Association in September 2019. He is also a principal engineer at Manufacturing Core Technology Team, Global Technology Center of Samsung Electronics. So I'll not take much of his time. So let us ask Dr. Oleg Feygenson to start his conversation. Basically, he is going to share about his experience and his journey towards TRIZ and how he got fascinated towards it and probably how TRIZ has played a very vital role in his professional life as well as personal life. And as I mentioned, this is going to be a very, very informal session. So please unmute yourself and make this particular session as interactive as possible. And in case you are not speaking, please keep your microphones on mute. And it's a genuine request, keep all your videos off. Over to you, Dr. Figgins.
All right. Thank you so much, Narayan. And ladies and gentlemen, okay, it is informal. Hello, everyone. So, my name is Oleg Feygenson. I am in South Korea, Suwon City. The reason for that is, as Narayan has mentioned, I am a full-time TRIZ employee of Samsung Electronics. The key words here is TRIZ employee. So I'm not just a process engineer or product engineer. I am a TRIZ expert for the full time, and I'm not alone in the company. We have a TRIZ team where people do nothing but TRIZ projects and TRIZ trainings. And today I would like to share a little bit this unique experience with you. As Narayan has mentioned, let us have this session very interactive. That is why if you have questions, do not hesitate to stop me, ask your questions, or there is another option. You can type your question in chat. I will be reading your questions and we can communicate. So just to start, let me briefly introduce myself informally again, because Narayan just said all my titles like Matriz President, PhD, and so on. I will start from my kind of involvement in TRIZ since my childhood. That is an interesting story because my father, who is also a TRIZ master, who is actively working. He spent 8 years in Korea with Samsung. Now he's in Russia working for the huge Russian corporation. And he was involved in TRIZ since 1980s. At that time, I was a child. I was 10, 12 years old. And for the first time, I heard about TRIZ from my father, Naum Feygenson. Well, at that time, he was telling me some stories, how, inventive principles works, how you can change this or that in your house. And that was quite interesting. Then my father was organizing TRIZ trainings, TRIZ seminars in a small Russian city, which is called Komsomolsk-na-Amuri. It is on the far east of Russia, far away from Moscow. It's like 9 hours flight from Moscow to this small city. It is close to Japan and Korea. But this is industrial city. There are many factories, many plants. That is why TRIZ was well accepted there in the Soviet Union times. And many TRIZ masters visited this city and basically visited our home in this city. So at the age of 12, I met with many of them. Just to name a few, like Boris Zlotin was in our house, Alexander Kislov, Zinovy Roizin, and many others. My first kind of immersion in the TRIZ community happened when I was 15. That was 1991, and the TRIZ conference happened in Petrozavodsk, Russia. Genrikh Altshuler was alive at that time, and that was a nice experience for me when I been there. I was able to join the plenary speech of Mr. Altshuler. Yeah, that's unbelievable. That was more than 30 years ago. And then, I was doing my educational things. I was graduated by university. I went to, my PhD study, and I didn't consider my life connected to trees professionally. I was thinking that I spent my time like a physicist, like an experimental physicist, and for that reason, I moved to the United States, San Diego, where I was involved in the big startup, international startup, which was about utilization of nuclear wastes. However, this initial knowledge of trees, they were always with me, and I jumped from my scientific or physicist career to trees. And my first full-time job as a trees expert was with Gentry Partners, the world's largest trees consulting company, which was in Boston. Well, the company still exists under the other name, but it is still on the market. And in 2014, I decided to move to Samsung. So this is the story how I learned trees in my childhood and how I became a professional trees expert. Also, one last thing I would like to mention, Narayan has said that I'm a trees master. For those of you who are not familiar with the certification system, actually, trees master is the highest step in the hierarchy of trees professionals. And I got this title through thesis defense. It is pretty much like PhD thesis defense in 2010, so almost 12 years ago. That's about me, informal introduction. Any questions you want to ask, any topics you would like to discuss during this session, please let me know.
Oleg, this is Narayan here.
Uh-huh.
Probably what made you inclined towards trace? Like basically there are many other techniques also in the market which are there, and like design thinking, TOC, many other techniques which are there, and everybody speaks somewhere or the other about innovation.
Mm-hmm.
So of course they speak about innovation, but what made you inclined towards TRIZ?
That's a wonderful question. Thank you very much. Absolutely correct. There are many techniques. I think the most popular nowadays is design thinking. I mean, that was popular 5 years ago. Now the popularity is declining a little bit. Trace is quite different from all these techniques. Why? Because if you think about design thinking, there are some methods, some techniques how to think, how to organize your innovation process in a certain way. You have a roadmap, you need to, you have empathy stage, you have analysis stage, you have prototyping stage, and so on and so forth. But basically, it's how to train people to innovate in accordance with this roadmap. In TRIZ, we have a different situation. Actually, TRIZ is based on objective trends of engineering system evolution. Instead of trying to make people, the project team, more disciplined, more kind of stuck to the roadmap. In trees, we use knowledge from the past, knowledge from the technical systems, which are always evolving according to the certain trends. Besides trends, we have techniques like technical contradictions, physical contradictions, substance field modeling. But again, all these tools were developed based on the history of engineering system evolution. So,
What has been done? What are the limitations? Not other information are packed here.
yeah,
Yeah,
could you please mute your mic?
I need to figure out
I need
who's
to figure out who's
this.
Mr. Venkat Praveen.
He's, I see him muted. Now he's muted. Yep.
Right. Thank you
Sorry,
so
Oleg.
much, because otherwise we have a noise, and yeah. So I don't know if I answered your question completely, but for me, TRIZ is not about organizing, the innovation process, the working process. It is based on some technical trends, technical principles, which are extracted from the history of technical system evolution. Of course, we have our own maps, but the key here is we innovate based on the technical evolution which is extracted from the past. For me, that's the most kind of significant difference of trees from other innovative techniques.
Okay. Thank you, Oleg, for this. And of course, there is always a dilemma: Six Sigma or TRIZ. Where should we use Six Sigma and where should we use TRIZ? So it's always contemplating dilemma. People are not very sure. They are confused because many practitioners who are also consulting and doing Six Sigma trainings, they are also preaching something about innovation and they plug in TRIZ over there. So how do you actually differentiate between this?
Actually, to answer this question, I will give you an example of a famous company, General Electric. So everyone knows that General Electric is famous for, applying Six Sigma, design for Six Sigma. And yeah, they're doing really good. They are, the most successful company in the world, I think, in terms of application Six Sigma. Not only that, but Six Sigma is like a philosophy within the company. Back in 2006, General Electric Global Research, which was situated in Albany, New York, and also there are branches in Bangalore, India. That was a branch in Shanghai, China, Munich, Germany, and I think that was a branch in Brazil. So at that time, GE faced a very serious problem. They're perfectly fine with project execution with Six Sigma. However, there is a certain step in the Six Sigma roadmap. It is about ideation. You need to generate ideas. And how to do that? There are no techniques in Six Sigma that allows you to produce good, feasible ideas. And GE people, they're smart enough, they started looking for a methodology which could help them with idea generation. Not a big surprise, they found TRIZ. And it was a big competition between TRIZ providers in 2006, 2007, because GE was trying to select the best TRIZ provider in the world. So Gen 3 partners won this competition, and that is why I had a chance to be a part of TRIZ story in General Electric. So I was a head of training support department in Gen 3 Partners. I had a team in St. Petersburg, Russia. We developed a lot of training materials. We visited General Electric in different facilities, and we helped them to, to establish this TRIZ school within the company. So answering your question in a few words, Narayan, TRIZ doesn't compete to Six Sigma. TRIZ complements Six Sigma, and G example is a good illustration of that.
Perfect. Nicely answered, Oleg. And this makes the confusion clear that TRIZ doesn't compete with Six Sigma. It actually blends very nicely with Six Sigma. Okay,
Absolutely.
so Oleg, and since this is the first chapter of our TRIZ talks, I think many people will be also interested in the different levels of TRIZ certification. And since you also represent Matriz and you've been the president of Matriz, so probably I'd like you to throw some light on various certifications from level 1 to level 3 and also level 4 and level 5. How a person can migrate this entire journey.
Okay, also a good question. So, Matriz certification allows people and companies to understand who is who in this hierarchy, because there are many, alternative certification systems. Altschuller's Institute in the United States offers its own certification. There are a number of smaller organizations that offer their own certifications in TRIZ. However, TRIZ certification system is recognized by many companies, including General Electric, which I already mentioned, Samsung, Siemens, Intel, and many others. We have 5 levels. First 3 levels you can get just attending training courses. All requirements are listed in the TRIZ website, which is matriz.org. Very briefly, I will explain that for level 1, you need to take 24 hours of training and then pass the test, take the test. So that is like a multiple choice test. Everyone knows how to take these tests. For level 2, you have to take other 40 hours of training and then test again. For level 3, you should take 80 hours of training, and then at the end of level 3, you will know all tools of TRIZ, the roadmap, all procedures, how to apply this or that tool. You should pass the test again, plus you should present a problem. That could be, just a training problem. And also you should pass interview with 2 TRIZ masters. That's how you can get level 3. And level 3, it is the highest level you can get through training. Then level 4 and level 5, we consider those levels like TRIZ Elite, top level of TRIZ. For level 4, you should illustrate that you are able to use what you learned, those 3 tools which you learned during level 1, 2, 3, for real project execution. You should illustrate results, practical results of your project or projects. This is the committee in TRIZ which conducts defenses for level 4 every 3 months. It can be pre-scheduled with the committee. Dr. Simon Litvin and Dr. Sergey Logvinov are in charge of level 4 certification now. And then for level 5, for TRIZ Master, you have 2 options. One option, which was my way, because at that time I was young, I didn't have enough patents, I didn't have enough practical experience, so I decided to develop a new piece of methodology. So it's, as I mentioned, like a PhD thesis. You develop something new, then you present your development to the TRIZ Master Certification Council, which consists of 12 TRIZ Masters. That is very difficult, I should say. It is not a piece of cake. To be honest, it was more difficult than PhD in my life. This is the first option. So you have a certain development in TRIZ methodology, and you defend it in front of 12 TRIZ masters. The second option is very attractive for people who use TRIZ practically. So they do not want to develop anything. They're quite happy with what exists. They use TRIZ tools quite effectively. They execute project after the project. They, file patents. I can give you an example. Here in Korea, my good friend from Hyundai Motors, Jay Kim, he got his level 5 TRIZ Master for outstanding achievements in practical applications of TRIZ. This guy has 140 patents with Hyundai Motors. Most of his patents are about electrical vehicle or hybrid vehicles, and more specifically about cooling systems for those vehicles. And what is the most attractive thing in this story is that 40% of his patents are really implemented. Those solutions that described in his patents are implemented. This guy is genius. He loves TRIZ. He knows TRIZ very well, and that was his way to get TRIZ mastership through demonstration of practical application, outstanding achievements of practical applications. So just to summarize, for level 5, you have two options: develop something or illustrate that you have outstanding achievements in practical application.
Thank you, Oleg. I think there are many people who were not exposed to TRIZ and they are not a part of this TRIZ community yet. So I think this information was very useful for them. It's me who's asking questions. I'm sorry if anybody else has any questions. So probably you can unmute and ask Oleg any question, like in case of certification, in case of TRIZ as a methodology, or TRIZ and patent. So in case anybody has a question, just unmute and ask Oleg.
May I ask?
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
please.
sure.
Hello. Hello, Dr. Oleg. Sandeep Wankhede here.
Yeah.
Basically, we are trying to proliferate TRIZ in the students and academics. So right now, many of the people do not know what TRIZ is, and there is very less information rather available on this. So can you just, and incidentally in this meeting today, what I could see in the like participants list, there are students and there are principals and there are professors and of course there are industrial professionals also. So considering them present over here, if you can just throw a light, how TRIZ will be useful for an individual right from his schooling and particularly in engineering curriculum or learning during learning engineering, and how it will be useful for the faculty member as well. So many points to cover. I hope
Yeah,
it is not
yeah,
too
yeah.
much.
That's a very interesting topic. Thank you very much, Dr. Sandeep, for bringing this topic. Let me start from TRIZ in education. Actually, I think that TRIZ should be introduced to the education system even before university, in schools or even in preschools. In Russia, there are different teams of TRIZ trainers who are very successful in teaching kids. I mean, school kids and younger kids, like 5, 6 years old. Of course, they teach different TRIZ, not the same, which we use at Samsung Electronics. There's like a light version, but still, they teach kids how to think, and it makes their life easier. They are more successful in schools. They can create, very nice, innovative ideas, even if they're kids. So that is the first topic. Not only university, maybe we start to teach trees to the kids, not students. As for the universities, again, let me give you examples. Examples of two universities. One is Lapinranta University. You know this university very well, I guess. They have three scores led by Professor Leonid Chichurin. I know him very well because we used to work together in Gentry Partners. And what they do, they introduce three scores to the students. They have summer school and winter school for students. They invite students from different European universities, and at the end, they perform the real projects with trees. So I was happy to participate in some presentations of the students from Lapiranta Technical University. And it was quite impressive, people who do not have a huge engineering background and experience. With trees, they were able to generate very nice, feasible, valuable ideas. Another example is about Korean Polytechnic University. There is a Professor Song, Yongwon Song, who is Matri's vice president, by the way. He has been doing trees education for years now, more than 10 years, I guess. So he introduced trees courses at different levels. He can also, certify, by the way, students if they want, in accordance with Matri's certification system. And from time to time, I visit this university and give some lectures, and I can also, confirm that level of creativity of those students who learn trees from Professor Song is higher than average level of students' creativity. Another quick example. It reminds me about the time with General Electric. So, okay, that was a Six Sigma within GE. Then it also absorbed TRIZ, and Dr. Martha Garner, who was the quality leader in GE Global Research, told me a story after a couple of papers in TRIZ conferences, which she actually published. She was a keynote speaker in a number of our TRIZ events. So she got a number of calls from American universities. They were asking about TRIZ because look, if such a giant as GE starts with TRIZ, maybe it is something which should be taught in universities. So to summarize what I have said about universities, I think the request for TRIZ education in universities will come from industry, obviously. That is kind of my vision. Did I miss something, Sandeep? Should I cover something else?
No, you have covered it very nicely.
Okay,
Just
thank you.
like, just if you can put some more emphasis on how we should go about convincing the students that this is the right thing for them, as well as bringing the awareness in faculty members. Because unless and until this movement starts, the things will not roll. So as you mentioned rightly, we are already in our institute, AISSMS College of Engineering is already having some interaction with Dr. Victor. Of course, that is through you,
Yeah,
Dr. Oleg, and along with Lapin Ranta University also, Dr. Marcoli, Dr. Leonid, Dr. Daria, and our Nikhil Fadnis is there who is doing research out there. And he happened to be our alumni also. So we are doing it, but uh, I think that there is a lot of gap still between the thing which is there as a TRIZ, which is a must tool for every student to learn, and the need of a student to understand it.
Okay, so I will try to answer this question with example again, but my personal example. Example which helped me a lot when I learned TRIZ. Look, in modern society, how often people change their professions? I guess quite often. You know, in the past, if you are trained as an electrical engineer, you may spend all your life working as an electrical engineer within some big company or small company, whatever. Nowadays, it is quite different. So you may switch from one job position to another job position, from one industry to another industry. And TRIZ helps a lot with that. I can tell you the story of Gentry Partners. So that was a big consulting company. We had many clients, including Pepsi, including Wrigley, including General Electric, Intel, Siemens, from variety of industries. But the project teams of TRIZ experts were the same. So my project is about bananas, for Chiquita bananas. So I am involved in bananas for 3 months. Then my next project is about hand management products like, moisturizer, soaps, and so on. I need to change quickly from one area of expertise to another area of expertise. In TRIZ, we have tools which allow us to do so. For example, function analysis. As soon as you understand how the system in this or that industry really works, you can become a kind of quasi expert in this field. Of course, it doesn't substitute, years of education, but we were able to use experts in the field. But with TRIZ, we were able to navigate between different industries very successfully. We can switch from bananas to hand moisturizer to chips for microelectronics and so on. That is one reason, but a very important reason to learn TRIZ. It trains your systematic thinking, first of all, and second, it reduces your concerns about changing your professions and in the long run to changing your life. I think that should be very convincing for the students nowadays, because everyone understands that we live in the dynamically changing world. And as I said, nobody, I believe, nobody will spend the entire life working at the same position. With TRIZ, switching from other positions will be much more easier. And the fresh example, I found it on Facebook yesterday. You know, in Kazakhstan, the former Republic of Soviet Union, so we have a Kazakhstan TRIZ Association. They became a member in 2019 and they actively promote TRIZ in Kazakhstan. And that was a post in Facebook that was in Russian. So I could read that. I'll explain what happens in this post. That was the request for, you know, for the expert in innovation in some company, in some Kazakhstan company. And HR rejected the candidate. They said, no, we are not allowed him to join our company. Why? Because he has insufficient systematic thinking skills, and we recommend him to learn TRIZ. So you see, even at HR level in different countries, sometimes it becomes a requirement to know TRIZ. What could be more convincing for students? Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Shall I ask a question, Mr. Narayanan?
Yes, sir, please. Yep.
Hi. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Dr. Oleg. There is a problem in Indian IT industry. In Indian IT industry, USA has invested maximum. But the USA, as you are all know, is afflicted by a disease called not invented here syndrome. NIS. So anything not invented by Americans, they will say, oh, that's not great. We are have got design thinking, design sprint 3.0, and those things are great. But at the same time, Fortune 500 companies are all using silently or publicly TRIZ. For example, Intel has publicly announced that TRIZ is their technology or methodology for 21st century. So, having this background, I think some disturbance is there.
I can hear you. There is some noise. Okay.
Yeah. Having given this background, my question is how to convince American investor clients for IT industry in India that practice by Indian industry of TRIZ will be beneficial for US clients and Indian IT industry. So it's simple, but maybe answer may not be that simple.
Definitely. To be honest, you know, it is very difficult question, and I'll try to, you know, give you some answer from the top of my head. First of all, talking about U.S. Investors, I can tell you that we had success with TRIZ in the past. I mean, with Gentry Partners, I know that some investors are very positive about, you know, initiatives from other countries, especially if they see potential in those, you know, ideas, those initiatives. Talking about IT industry, I know this huge and very successful industry in India. My personal problem, I'm far away from IT industry, but I can tell you that at different TRIZ conferences, the question about applicability TRIZ for IT is rising from time to time, and people are trying to develop some kind of practical applications of TRIZ for this industry. I don't think we have the silver bullet, something which you can take right now and, accelerate your development in IT and, communication with US investors. But tourism is moving in this direction because it's a global trend, not only for India. As I said, it is difficult to answer to your question. I don't know if what I have said sufficient or not, but to be honest, I don't know what to add.
Okay, thank you, Oleg. I think it was a tough question, and I think everybody appreciates quality. So if you are giving quality and if you are giving that particular result, I'm sure everybody will appreciate that. And not invented here syndrome lies everywhere, probably not only in America, but it lies everywhere. So if they see quality over there, definitely they will probably be interested. Okay, I have one more question for you, Oleg. In addition to the earlier question which Dr. Wankhede probably asked on education and certification. We don't see much of a pull from the industries wherein, of course, I don't know about Russia and other countries, but at least in India, we are not started to see that particular pull of, okay, if you are a TRIZ practitioner, please apply over here. So that has not yet started to come as one of the requirements for job applications. How is the scenario international? At least in India, we don't see this. And if there's no pull, probably people are hesitant to get into this particular mode of certifications.
All right, very good question. First of all, I think what is going on in India, we have trace providers like you represent, Narayan, you represent Trade Association of Asia, which is a member of Matriz.
Right.
We have other organizations in India, but India is a huge country, and probably it is not possible to cover all training needs having this number of organizations. I'm sure you are doing your best. You are doing a great job. You promote TRIZ, you introduce TRIZ to your clients, you conduct public trainings, and this event is a good indicator of your a good job in promoting TRIZ. However, it is still not enough, maybe. Matriz should put more efforts in advertising TRIZ in India. I can give you an example of the country which is even bigger than India, China. Nowadays, TRIZ is booming in China. You can't imagine how many trainings are happening in China nowadays. Hundreds and thousands of people are getting certification from Matriz. They have a pool, huge number of level 1 people nowadays. And those people are from industry. They are from Vivo, they are from Midea, they're from other industrial companies in China. So they have a number of level 2 people, also from industry. And they have quite a good number of level 3 people. And those level 3 people are not only from industry, they're also from universities. They introduce TRIZ in universities through Matriz, by the way. So those professors who teach in universities, they obtain level 3 with Matriz. They got accreditation from Matriz. Accreditation means that they can teach and certify. And they conduct certification courses in universities. So in China, comparing to India, as I said, TRIZ is booming, but they put a lot of efforts, and there is an objective request from China at different levels. We have our vice president in China, Dr. Alp Lin, who works at the government level. At the same time, we work at the industry level and academia. So all three, major foundations are in this picture: government, industry, and academia. So that is why the awareness of TRIZ and Matriz certification is growing in China, and it is already at the very high level, I would say.
Okay, thanks, Oleg. And I think there's a question coming from Amit Sen. Amit, probably you raised your hand so you can ask your question.
Yeah, thanks for giving the opportunity to ask the question. So, my question is that I have taken over an operations of a very large company into manufacturing domain of white good. now the level of Lean Six Sigma as such in this organization is very low. So does the TRIZ application require the foundational readiness of the organization with respect to a basic level of Lean Six Sigma, or organization can go under a transformation directly with application of TRIZ?
Okay. Yeah, I understand your question, and I can answer this question, I guess. So both ways are possible. My example with GE was when TRIZ kind of became an additional part for Six Sigma, but it's not a unique case. I mean, that's not the only way. There are many examples. For instance, Samsung Electronics. That was a Six Sigma department years ago in Samsung Electronics, but TRIZ was developing in parallel. Now Six Sigma is completely gone from Samsung Electronics. TRIZ is still alive. They never interacted. So different people, different teams introduced those two methodologies and they never really met. So in some projects, we had people who were trained in Six Sigma, but again, there were no kind of project interactions with those two methodologies. So both ways are possible. Not only Samsung in Russia. I know companies that have never heard or have never tried Six Sigma, but they're quite successful with TRIZ. So it is possible. The short answer is you don't have to have Six Sigma and Lean in your company to start with TRIZ.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thanks, Oleg. Anybody else who would like to ask any question to Oleg with respect to applications of TRIZ or TRIZ in education? Because I see a lot of professors and students out over here.
Shall I ask one question, Mr. Narayan?
Yep.
It's just my observation. Probably Indian public sector, we can target to apply this because they are not bound by the USA investment. So Indian public sector, we can target for application of this. This is the thought I was thinking for last 1 year. So
Okay.
any comments, Dr. Oleg?
Yeah, thank you very much. This is a good thought, but could you please define the public sector just to make sure we are on the same page, that we understand it the same way? What is a public sector for you?
Sector means predominantly government of India or government of states have invested as a investor maximum, and they are not bound by investment of American investment. But there may be some part of the shares given to the publics as, for example, banks, nationalized banks. Indian investor, predominant shareholder is government of India or state governments in India. There are around 25 states are there in India. So predominantly government sector. That is called public sector.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. And again, to be honest, I have never faced problems at that government level, personally in my life. That is why I am not a good expert in that. But I can tell you that we have colleagues, TRIZ colleagues who work with governments, even for government election. They did some some political campaigns, so they applied TRIZ very successfully. Again, it is not my experience, but based on what I know from my colleagues, I think your thoughts is fair enough, and TRIZ can be applied in this public sector quite successfully. You just need to find a good expertise. Why I believe so? Because actually TRIZ is kind of a science about artificial systems. If you model the systems in your public sector as artificial systems, something which was created by human, then you can apply same TRIZ tools which are applicable for technical systems. It doesn't matter if the system is social or technical or information. So theoretically, if you understand it at the system level, you can apply TRIZ tools for modeling and identifying problem within the system.
Right, Dr. Oleg. Thank you for this. And yes, of course, Joseph, probably you can initiate your discussion with the government agencies in India and start the ball rolling. Okay, I see a hand raised by Rahul over there. Rahul, probably you can unmute yourself and ask your question if at all.
Yeah,
Yep.
thanks, Mr. Narayan. Yeah, hi, doctor. A very good evening. So, hi, this is Rahul Rajput, and I'm right now working with one of logistic firm, third-party logistic firm.
We can hear you, Rahul.
Unfortunately, we can't hear you, Rahul. Okay, till the time Rahul comes back, there's a question on the chat box which says, how do you keep yourself abreast of latest developments in TRIZ usage?
How do we keep
Yes.
ourselves updated?
Abreast is probably updated of the latest developments of TRIZ usage.
Okay. Well, Matriz is the world's largest TRIZ association. There are other associations like ETRIA, which stands for European TRIZ Association. There's Altschuler's Institute in the United States. We have some collaboration with those organizations. We have some connections. But again, Matriz is the world's largest organization, TRIZ organizations. We have members in many countries, and also we have our annual conference. Actually, we planned our conference in India back in 2020, but because of COVID, it was cancelled, unfortunately. So during these annual conferences, people present their papers, new developments of trees in trees. We have peer review procedure for selecting papers, quite professional because professors from universities who have titles of trees masters are involved in developing proceedings of our conferences. In addition to that, we have TRIZ master certification, and in many cases, people defend theses. And as I said, thesis defense means that they introduce something new to the TRIZ methodology. That's the kind of usual way to learn about new developments. Actually, we do not learn about new development. We coordinate this new development through TRIZ master certification, through conferences. Plus, within Matriz, we have a council on R&D and methodology. This council is led by famous TRIZ master Victor Fey, and the responsibility of this council is to check new developments, to coordinate new developments. So the short answer would be we control new trees developments. We not simply follow them. We are not searching for them. We coordinate this activity as a matrix.
Okay, thank you, Oleg. And Rahul, probably if the technical problem is solved, you can continue with your question.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry for the last time there was some network issue at my end. So, will repeat myself once again here. So, I'm right now working with a 3PL business company where I'm looking after the e-com logistic part. So, there are sorry. So, there are basically two questions from my end. The first one is like, relatively, I'm very new for this technology, trees methodology, because I recently come across this methodology from one of my friend, and I started reading about it, but I'm not really sure how to get more proficiency about it. So that's the first thing, and I seek your guidance here. The second is like, do we require any prerequisites in a current system, in a current processes for trees implementations? Do we have any set criteria? Okay, this is the criteria, and then only you can apply trees or not, something like that. Because I'm relatively new, and maybe because I'm not aware about this. So just seek your guidance over these issues. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I got both of your questions. Thank you. So my answer for the first one will be very short in order to leave time for other questions. I suggest that you talk directly with PV Narayan, and he will explain you how to get more proficiency in trees. So Trees Association of Asia is a good trees provider in India. Talk to them. For the second question, yeah, it is always a question: should we select this or that project for trees? I can tell you a criterion in Samsung. Let's say we have a project in semiconductor industry. And if you need to optimize something, let's say you use too much photoresist and lithography process during, semiconductor manufacturing, you have a special step when you apply photoresist on the semiconductor wafer. And if you need to reduce the amount of photoresist by 2 or 3% in order, to save money, then you do not need TRIZ probably. It is a simple optimization process, and engineers in line can do that. However, and it is not just an example from the top of my head, that was a real project 2 years ago, the requirement was to reduce amount of photoresist used by 50%. It was not possible without innovation. No optimization method will allow you to do that. That is why they asked our TRIZ expertise, and we successfully conducted this project together with semiconductor engineers. It took us 6 months, but our ideas were implemented. So for me, the criterion is, if you cannot solve this problem with your common knowledge, with your usual, techniques, then this project is a good candidate for TRIZ. Okay.
Okay. So if I understood it correctly, that means we can apply trees at any level of problem. It's not like a certain particular prerequisites are required here.
Yeah, exactly. So again, as I said, the only criterion is the ability of solving this problem with your common techniques. So, but talking about levels of problem, I can give you another example. So I mentioned this project about photoresist consumption. That is a huge strategic project for the company. At the same time, we have projects, which are much smaller in scope. For instance, when Samsung introduced this foldable phone, that was a problem. So, as you probably know, antenna in the phone is around its body. If the phone is solid, there is no problem. You have all antennas here. You have Wi-Fi antenna, LTE antenna, Bluetooth, and so on. But now it's broken in 2 pieces. So integrity of antenna is broken. So how to maintain the high quality of receiving signals? That's another type of TRIZ project. Or, that was a problem that some connection inside the phone is not really reliable. It is at the level of nut and bolts. Also, TRIZ was applied successfully. Why? Because engineers failed to solve this problem using their common knowledge, their common techniques.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rahul, for your question, and thanks, Oleg, for answering. Harsha, probably I see you raise your hand. So, Harsha, if you can ask your question.
Yes, yes, Narayan, thank you. Hello, Dr. Oleg. Yeah, Doctor, as a student of trees, particularly business trees, I mean, I'm getting the knowledge every year since last almost 3 to 4 years, and I'm getting convinced that it is not trees methodology is not applying the quick tools, to get the quick results, but it is like a practice and making it as a habit in all your processes to get the sustainable results. When I'm with this background, when I'm sharing these thoughts or these ideas with my friends or other acquaintances, so usually a question comes to their mind that uh, how to differentiate. I mean, if it is not a quick tool, then how consistently we apply in the real life scenario. One of the examples, as you gave some time back while answering to another fellow, that with the normal engineering knowledge or method, maybe that solution was not viable, but with the trees methodology, it became viable. So from that perspective, any thought that which we can take along with us while talking to the people to whom we are introducing the trees.
Thank you very much for your question. That is an excellent one. So you're absolutely right. If you take a traditional way of learning trees, it takes a lot of time. as I said, 24 hours level 1, 40 hours level 2, 80 hours level 3. But besides this knowledge, you need some skills, and it takes time to develop these skills. So it is definitely not a short, not a quick process. Some thoughts how to accelerate this process. In the modern society, in the modern world, people do not care much about theories. So TRIZ stands for theory of inventive problem solving. People do not need theories, especially those people who work, let's say, in fields, in factories, or in R&D labs. They need tools. That is why one of the possible directions of TRIZ development is to create certain frameworks based on TRIZ tools for the certain needs, for the certain project types. For example, you face a problem with cost reduction. Probably you don't need to learn all TRIZ. You don't need to learn trends of engineering system evolution or ARIS or some other complicated, sophisticated tools. Function analysis, trimming, cause and effect chain analysis, those 3 tools probably will be sufficient for you. And this is the framework which can be used specifically for cost reduction. Or you need to, find some technologies in other industries, kind of, thinking outside the box approach. Then function-oriented search may be very helpful. You are doing forecasting project. You have no other choice but trends of engineering system evolution. So what I'm trying to say is that in order to make TRIZ applicable faster, we as TRIZ developers might think about creating special frameworks for the certain project types. And I know people who are doing that at the present time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Oleg.
Okay, thank you, Oleg, for this quick answer. And we are almost towards the end of this particular session. So can we have the last question from anybody, if at all there is? So I find many people who were actually asking me a lot of questions. So it's a light platform. Okay, Visu is raising his hand. So Visu,
Shall I ask the
Narayan,
question,
can I ask
Mr.
a
Narayan?
question?
Visu, I think let Visu go ahead because Joseph, we have taken a couple of questions from you. Let Visu go ahead first.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
So, Dr. Oleg, my question is, you have mentioned about the level 1, level 2, level 3 of 24 hours, 40 hours, and 80 hours before getting into the level 4 and level 5. Is there a time gap between the certifications between level 1 to level 2? Is there any designated time gap, period gap, like that between any certifications?
No, this requirement doesn't exist. So if you have time to take one training after another, you can do that. You can obtain level 1 and next week level 2. There are no
Okay.
restrictions.
Okay. For level 1, 2, 3, there is no
Yeah.
necessity of the practical implementation. While for
No.
the level 4 and level 5, the level 4 we should present a problem. Level 5 we should present an application of the TRIZ, what we have learned in the up to level 4, right?
Like this, just one correction.
Level 3.
Level 1 and level 3 are about knowledge. Level 4 and level 5 are about your skills, your experience. So level 5, as I said, 2 options. You can develop new tools or some, part of TRIZ methodology, or you can illustrate your outstanding achievements of using TRIZ in your practical projects. So, and it takes time. I can tell you, preparation of my master TRIZ thesis took me 2 years.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thanks. That was my short question. Thanks, Narayan. Thanks, Narayan.
Okay. And I think, Oleg, there is a gap from level 3 to level 4, right? There's a gap of 1 year between level 3 to level 4, if I correctly remember, right?
No, it is not a requirement of matriz, but
Okay.
actually, I don't think it is really possible to perform a project using tools which you have just learned. It takes
Yes.
time. Unless, you use some old project and describe it with TRIZ. But in many cases, if people do this, TRIZ masters who are judging, they are very experienced people, they can find out that very quickly. That is
Right.
why usually it takes 1 year between level 3 and level 4 just to prepare the real case, the real project.
True. True. So I think it's almost an hour we are speaking to Dr. Oleg, and this was the first time we started this TRIZ Talks, and Oleg was generous enough to give his time to us. And thank you, Dr. Oleg, for this wonderful session. It's almost 5 p.m. here in India, and I'm sure it's almost 8:30 p.m. in Korea, right
Yes,
over there? Yeah. So
exactly.
it's weekend, so you should not hold on, Oleg, for a long time. So possibly once again, thanks, Dr. Oleg, for accepting our request. And this is just the beginning of this particular session. So we keep doing these sessions every month. And the next session is organized on the 25th of February. The time remains the same. It's 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Indian Standard Time. And I'll request everybody to please be a part of this particular session. Let's bring this community together and let's grow this particular community. And all the suggestions are welcome. Let's see how much we can implement, and certain things we can definitely take up to Matris also.
All right. Thank you very much
Yep.
for
And
the
Oleg, any
opportunity.
concluding comments from your side, Oleg?
Yeah, just one final remark. Many thanks for inviting me. That was my pleasure to be with you and answer your good questions. I wish a great success to all Indian participants with TRIZ. And should you have any questions, you have Narayan and his team in India, and you have Matriz globally. So do not hesitate to ask
Sure.
your questions, address your concerns. And once again, thanks a lot, and have a great weekend ahead.
Thank you, Oleg.